Alright, friends, welcome. So today we're going to be doing a review of a song I've been mentioning a lot in our last few Sabaton reviews. It's called What's the Price of a Mile? Or I think it's actually called Price of a Mile. I added What's it part of the lyric. But this song really is just about trench warfare. Like, it mentions the Battle of Passchendaele and other such things, but it really gives an idea of how trench warfare was fought. And because I've worn the Adrian helmet the last few videos, I do have another helmet I'm going to wear this video. That's right. We're gonna go to the Central Powers this video. I'm going to wear this the majority of the video. I know this is probably silly to see me wear, but you know, I have the helmets, I'm going to wear them. But so what this video really illustrates is the music, at least. It explains how World War I was really fought. You know, I think during World War One they only moved about 100 miles the entire war. It was really a back and forth the entire time. So before we get into it, if you're a returning a returning viewer, please subscribe. We're so close to that 500, so close. And I'm about to get hit with a hurricane down here. So please, please, please subscribe. Help this community grow. We're almost to that 500. Once we hit that 500, that's when this becomes a full-time job for me. So thank you so much, everyone, for your continuous support. If you're returning, please like, share, and comment. Again, that helps the algorithm as well. And let's get into it. All right, here we are. So, again, I'm using someone else's video. The person we're using today, I will get his information at the end. As always, it's going to be in the link. I don't make money on these videos. This is strictly for enjoyment, to review some fun music. But this is Sabaton's The Price of a Mile.
Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight.
Passchendaele, and as the night falls, the general calls, and the battle carries on and on. What is the purpose of it all? What's the price of a mile?
Yeah, so very true. You know, you gotta think this wasn't just an empty battlefield. You know, the green fields are gone, houses and roads destroyed. There's nothing left. These were communities. These were no man's land at some time. You know, especially places like Passchendale. They were whole towns and cities that were destroyed just by the conflict and the war. We think about these open blank fields, but they weren't always open and blank. And you know, it's really cool at the beginning. You see with the watches, because that's when everything had to be coordinated. So officers had to have watches on them in order to enforce the attacks. And then, of course, you see the creeping barrages and such. I mentioned that in our last reaction video, the idea of the creeping barrage during the Fields of Verdun video. That's what you were seeing hitting the English. It's no lie that the Germans kind of went into World War I a little more prepared than the other powers, but just because they went in prepared didn't mean they were prepared. Germany's biggest flaw in most of their wars, with the exception of the Franco-Prussian War, which at the time they weren't even Germany, they take too long to shift their economies. So they, through the wars, try to keep a regular economy, but the reality is you need to shift your country to a war economy, because regular economy is not going to be able to hold, all the military and all the ordnance and things you need to build, the logistics and everything. But yeah, it's true. All this it's terrible.
Thousands of feet march to the beat. It's an army on the march. Long way from home, paying the price in young men's lives. Thousands of feet march to the beat. It's an army in despair. Knee deep in mud, stuck in a trench with no way out. Thousands of machine guns kept on firing through the night. Mortars placed and wrecked the scene. Guns the fields that once were green. Still a deadlock at the front line, where the soldiers die in mud. Roads and houses since long gone. Still no glory has been won. Know that many men have suffered. Know that many men has died. 6 months of ground has been won. 500,000 men are gone. And as the men crawl, the general call, and the killing carried on. And on. What was the purpose of it all? Was the price of a Nile?
You have one of the good lines in here: "No glory to be found." World War, when World War One started, you had all these kids, these 17, 18-year-olds. They were like, oh, it's going to be like the glories of the past, like the Napoleonic Wars, or, in Germany, oh, it's going to be like the Franco-Prussian War all over again, oh, like the Crimea. There's going to be glory for everyone and everything. They were parades. People paraded going to war. It was such a celebration. There's this film about the rise of Adolf Hitler called Hitler Rise of Power that they show Munich at the beginning of World War One, and you just see how excited the crowd is that there's going to be another war. This really just shows you the mindset of humanity at that time. They wanted it. They for some reason thought they needed it. We are animals, sadly, at the end of the day, so we desire conflict as much as we try to act like we don't. It's just, once this war started, a lot of these young men realized this was not what they thought it was going to be. They thought this was going to be like a year at most. They go, beat the Germans, beat the French, beat the Russians, beat the English. They thought they'd be in and out. The war went on from 1914 to 1918. That's 4 heinous years of war that the most awful things happen. You see right here, machine guns firing all night and everything. We perfected the art of killing in World War One, which is just insanity. And now you're about to see the clash of the Germans and the British with each other. So we like to, here in the United States, we call the American Civil War the first modern war. The reason we call it that is the first time you see, in a way, mechanized warfare. Gatling guns were first being presented. Rifling, all these things were being presented. Trench warfare was becoming more mainline. But also, it was because of the nature of the hand-to-hand combat. Now, of course, hand-to-hand combat was always brutal. You're getting so close to someone that it's a very intimate thing you're doing. But, in the Civil War, and then now here in World War One, it was something else. You saw one of the Germans had a trench tool. That's a little shovel. they would use those more for hand-to-hand combat than they would for actually digging trenches. You know, guys are grabbing rocks, they're beating each other with their bare fists. It was nothing like any European conflict had ever been before. You never saw this kind of hand-to-hand fighting. You know, you'd have guys tackle another guy to the ground, take his own bayonet out and stab him with it, or gouge eye. Like, some of the things some people did in World War One, it's not a shock. You know, we call it PTSD now, but they called it shell shock back then. And you got to imagine the things not only you would have seen, but you would have done. Because at the end of the day, you know, nowhere to run, like the song says, you're pretty much in a grave. You're in a very long grave, so either you survive or the other guy survives. That's your options. You don't have any other option. Because even if you get out of your trench and start retreating, that guy that just took your trench is going to shoot you in the back as you're running away. Like, of course, they didn't always do that, but there's a very strong possibility you're going to get shot. But then there's also the option, there's this movie called Path of Glory. It's a great movie. My father and I used to watch it all the time. It's with Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas's father. You could be called a coward for running away. So if you were the only survivor of your regiment and you came back to the support trenches alone, you're a coward. Why didn't you stay there and fight? So, you know, seeing this and seeing the hand-to-hand fighting, it's just, it's so shocking that we as humans were able to do that to one another. Oh. You know, another thing to think about, you know, they talk about the generals and things. It shows you the disconnect between the generals of the era and their infantry or their artillery or their just regular foot soldiers. You know, you think about someone like Napoleon or, you know, Ulysses S. Grant, you know, these men, Washington, even Tsar Alexander the First. These were men who fought in file with their men. Like, maybe not fight, but they were witnessing everything that was happening. They saw how brutal it was, you know. Two famous quotes from the American Civil War was William T. Sherman said, "War is hell." And then the other was Robert E. Lee at the Battle of Fredericksburg, where he said, "It is good that war is so awful, or else we would grow too fond of it." It's, you know, you seeing these guys point blank range riddling each other with machine guns, bayoneting each other, shooting each other point blank. You know, you saw that poor little German kid just sitting there like, what's going on? I can't believe this. This is insanity. It's, you know, it really was crazy, the idea that you had generals who were thousands of miles, not thousands, but hundreds of miles from the front giving these orders. You know, maybe they'd come visit the front every few days, but usually that was the job of a colonel, would command like the actual frontline trenches. But, you know, you can't imagine what it was like for these infantrymen who probably, you know, there's go see the All's Quiet on the Western Front movie. It's so good, the new one. It's completely in German, like the actual book. But there's a scene where they're negotiating with the French, and it's the German civilian leadership and the French military leadership trying to figure out what to do. And the French commander-in-chief says, "I'll keep the war going. I don't care." But the civilian leadership and the German leadership wants to continue the war too, the German military leadership. But the French military leadership does as well, but it's the German civilian leadership that's like, this needs to stop. People are suffering at home now too, and that's why it came down to unconditional surrender, because Paul von Hindenburg, who was at this point pretty much dictator of Germany after the Kaiser's removal, he told them, negotiate the peace, whatever it is. If we have to surrender, we have to surrender. We just need to end this war. So, you know, it's always an interesting perspective to say these generals knew exactly what was going on, and they just ignored it. They were like, it's fine, it's okay, let it keep going. And I'm not saying all generals were like that, but, you know, someone like John Pershing, many of you probably know the story of John Pershing, that on November 11th, right before the armistice was supposed to begin, he ordered an outright assault on the German trenches that actually resulted in more Americans dying than Germans. So, you know, you had a lot of these generals who really did not care. They just wanted their own personal glory. And it's heartbreaking, especially when you see this, because this is actually very accurate. This film, I believe this was actually called Trench. It stars Daniel Craig. It was brutal, just like this. And, you know, it's crazy. These British soldiers are sitting in no man's land to catch the Germans by surprise. So, like I said, this really does take place during Passchendaele. So, like it says, on October 26, 1917, the Canadian Corps entered the Battle of Passchendaele. Within a week, they captured the ruined village at a cost of 5,000 lives. The entire campaign lasted 4 months and claimed 600,000 casualties on both sides. Now, again, let's put this in perspective. So last time we did a reaction was Fields of Verdun. That claimed 700,000 men. This claims 600,000, and this was in a shorter period. So this, you know, that scene of just the bare wasteland between the two trench lines, it's so horrifying and so true that that's how this war was, you know. And if you pop your head up for a second, boom, you're gone. You know, that's actually how, spoiler alert for anyone that's never read or seen All Quiet on the Western Front, actually, the Netflix one doesn't end this way, but the way All Quiet on the Western Front, the book ends, is the main character, he's a German, and he's sitting on the side of a trench, and he's looking up at a tree, and he starts to draw the dove that's sitting in the tree, which obviously dove means peace, and right before, literally, it's something like 30 minutes, no, I think it's like 5 minutes before the armistice is supposed to start, he gets shot by a sniper. And it's horrible because things like that did happen. And, you know, it really puts into perspective what this war was really like. And, you know, it's just horrible because, like I said, these kids were going in thinking this was going to be easy. They were going to go in and out, the war would be over, it was going to be great. People don't realize the reality of war until they're actually in them. All right, friends, so that's where we are with The Price of a Mile. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I love doing these reaction videos. They're my favorite. You know, it's fun that I get to wear these little props every now and again. But thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed. If you're returning, because I know the majority of you who view are returning viewers and are not subscribed, please subscribe. I'm so close to 500. Once I get to 500, we get up there and we become monetized channel. So thank you so much. If you're returning, please like, share, and comment as always. And until the next time, we'll see you.